Because of the COVID-19 epidemic, I haven't been flying for 10 weeks. But thankfully, I start flying again tomorrow. And since I've been away from flying for a long period, I'm now preparing myself by studying the Standard Operations Procedures, or the SOP. Hi, my name is Magnar Nordahl. I'm an ATR typewriting instructor and an airline captain. And this channel is all about aviation. Today I will talk about a very important manual for all airline pilots, and that is the SOP, the Standard Operation Procedures. The SOP provides flight crew a step-by-step guide to ensure the operations are conducted in a predictable, uniform, and safe manner. What's inside the SOP? On the first pages you will find some definitions. The pilot sitting in the left seat is referred to as the captain, and the pilot sitting in the right seat is referred to as the first officer. These are the roles of those pilots, and normally you will find a captain and a first officer flying together. But at times when you maybe have two captains flying together, in this case the captain sitting in the right seat do the roles as a first officer. And since you have two captains, only one can be the commander, and it's up to the company to decide who will have that position. There are also times, for example, when a first officer is appointed to captain training, and this first officer will then undergo some simulated training from the left seat, and after finishing this training and completed a test, the first officer will fly from the left seat, and in the right seat there's an experienced line training captain. The pilots share the workload evenly, and in most cases they will fly every second leg. They will agree about this before they start the duty. And the pilot who is assigned to fly is called the pilot flying, or the PF, and is of course responsible for flying the aircraft and navigation. The other pilot is called pilot monitoring, the PM. And the most important task for pilot monitoring is to monitor the flight and inform pilot flying if he or she deviates from the planned airspeed, altitude, flight path, etc. Pilot monitoring also do the communication with ATC and flight operations of the company. They operate the system, for example the landing gear and the flaps. They read the checklists and then do some paperwork, for example checking the fuel is sufficient for the destination. The SOP tells us what we shall do in all phases of flight. For example, if pilot flying wants the landing gear down, he or she will call gear down. And the pilot monitoring will check the speed is within the limit, which means you are not too fast, and call speed checked. Then select the gear lever down, wait until there are 3 green lights indicating, and then call gear down. Pilot flying will then look at the indicator and call checked. And this page shows the normal flight profile for a takeoff. So, why is this so important? In my company there are about 60 first officers flying the ATR, and that means I will fly with each one of them 2 or 3 times a year in average. But I know exactly what each one of them will do and which callouts they will use, because they follow the SOP and they expect me to be accurate like them. So therefore I study the SOP to remind myself about every detail of the procedures. The SOP is very important when it comes to abnormal and emergency procedures, because it tells us exactly what to do to solve the problem in a safe way. The first priority is always to fly and navigate the aircraft. Then we have to identify the problem if it's a system failure or whatever it is. We can cross-check with other indications, and once we agree about what problem we have, we can apply the correct checklist. Sometimes we have to do some actions by memory because some situations like emergency descent requires a swift action. But still, we have to remember, analyze, and find out what's going on first before we can act. Once we do all the memory items, we do the checklist, and then we can analyze the situation, what system works, what does not work, and we make a decision, should we continue or is it more safe to divert another airport? Is the SOP important? Yes, absolute. I will not tell a story about an airline company. It was more than 60 years old, and it was brought down by a poor safety culture through the entire organization, and this resulted in 2 fatal accidents. In 1951, Fuxing Airlines was founded in Taiwan, and they started flying domestic routes with Catalina amphibious aircraft and probably some other aircraft like the DC-4, but I didn't find any confirmed information about that. They stopped flying domestic routes in 1958. They continue with flight operations. They had, for example, a fleet of Pilatus PC-6 Porters in the 1960s. In 1983, they changed the name to TransAsia, and 1988 they started to fly domestic routes again with ATR 42. In 1991 they get ATR 72, and in 1995 Airbus 320 and 321. In 2012 they started to expand, and they got Airbus 330 to fly more dense routes. And they even had plans, at least there were rumors, they had plans to get Airbus 380 and start to fly to the United States. This never happened. In 2014, they started V-Air, a low-cost airline. Then, on 23rd of July 2014, TransAsia Flight 222 crashed during approach to Mekong Airport in bad weather. The captain descended below minimum descent altitude, MDA, and while both pilots were looking for the runway, the airplane descended into the ground. The airplane hit trees and crashed into several buildings. There were 58 people on board. There were 48 fatalities. 10 passengers survived and 5 people on the ground were injured. The accident report concluded that, according to the flight recorder's data, non-compliance with standard operating procedures, SOPs, was a repeated practice during the occurrence flight. The crew's recurring non-compliance with SOPs constituted an operating culture in which high-risk practices were routine and considered normal. Less than 7 months later, before the accident report was finished, disaster struck again. On 4th of February 2015, TransAsia Flight 235 crashed shortly after departing Taipei Songsan Airport runway 10. At 1200 feet, engine number 2 lost all thrust due to a failure to the propeller system. The captain shut down the wrong engine, and the airplane stalled, hit a taxi on an elevated highway, and crashed into a river. There were 58 people on board. 43 of them perished. 2 persons in the taxi were injured. The accident report came out with the same conclusion as the report from the previous accidents. The pilots did not follow standard operating procedures. After this accident, all pilots were mandated to undertake supplementary proficiency checks with a higher standard. Some pilots did not pass those tests, and they were demoted. Other pilots left the airline. The company improved the flight safety program, and some months later they started to fly the ATR 72 again, and this time the pilots followed the SOP as they should. However, the public had lost faith in the company and the passenger numbers were very low, even when they offered tickets at discount price. The financial losses become unbearable, and on 22nd November 2016, the management announced that they have stopped all flight operations and will dissolve the company. Not only did 1,800 people lose their jobs, but 91 people lost their lives in the accidents. If the management had been more committed to safety, this could have been avoided. Therefore, always keep yourself updated with the procedures. And that brings us to the end of this video, and I really hope you liked it, even this was a very serious matter. Please support this channel by hitting the like button, share and subscribe. And please add your comments below, and please remember, show respect to those people who were affected by these accidents. Thank you for watching. Happy landing.